The Common Core standards are standards that were initiated by private interest groups in Washington, D.C. There was no state representation involved when developing the standards. They're very biased towards these self-interest groups in Washington. The United States Department of Education was deeply involved in the creation of the standards. In the creation of those standards, the Department of Education has spent hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars while developing these. Seems like a pretty wasteful program, given that many states also already had very robust curriculums and standards in place. States only agree to accept Common Core standards because they'll lose eligibility for government funding for their schools if they do not agree to the terms of the Common Core standards. That seems pretty shady that the government is going to force these upon states. If they don't agree to these standards, then they'll have their budgets cut drastically. And if a state does decide to adopt these standards, they can't just accept portions of the standards. They have to accept the entire set of standards, word for word. They can't just decide to implement maybe the math standards or the language arts standards. They have to implement all of it, and it has to be word for word. That's also pretty sketchy. If a state decides that they need better math standards in their state, they should be able to do that and say, hey, we'll go with the math standards for Common Core, but with the language arts standards, we think our curriculum is better, and we think we can prove that. They should be able to make adjustments to the standards as needed. It's that way in a lot of businesses. In the field that I work in safety, for example, there's you have to follow federal OSHA regulations for safety in the workplace, and if for some reason a certain type of fall protection doesn't work in your facility, you can contact OSHA and say, hey, we're doing this instead for our fall protection. We believe that it meets or exceeds the OSHA regulations for fall protection and the duty to have a fall protection in the workplace. And the federal OSHA will grant in certain cases leniency and allow that to happen. I believe it should be the same way for education. It's handicapping way too many teachers and administrators in schools to not allow them to do the kind of things that they need. Also, universities have stated that the whole thing about Common Core is saying that it's going to create students who are more college ready. Many of these universities are coming out saying that, hey, some of the old college standard or the state standards we had more sturdy curriculum, and it was better preparing students for college, and I think that most parents would agree that is the ultimate goal for your kid, is to have them go to college and try to secure a good job and everything. And that's the whole reason, or the whole thing that school is supposed to be achieving, is making your kids as ready for college and then their career as possible. This is it's pretty obvious that you need to do the best thing for children. And if these Common Core standards aren't that, then they either need to be revised or scrapped entirely, and something else done instead. If you decide that you want to take action against Common Core, there's a few things that you can do. There are a lot of petitions online from federal, state, and local organizations. You can go online and attach your signature to it, and that'll be sent into these government areas or wherever they go to try and prevent the standards from being pushed on states. You can also contact your state and local officials, different elected officials, whether that's a state senator or whatever it might be. You can contact these people and let them know that you don't support them if they're going to support Common Core standards. Let them know that you're against them, and you don't think that the state should adopt them just because they're being pushed on them by the government. Another thing you can do when you're voting for these elected officials, become more well informed. Look at their history and what foundations they've supported in the past. If they're supporting Common Core standards or other people who do support Common Core standards, don't vote for them. It's pretty much as simple as that. Don't get officials in place that are going to try to push things on the citizens like Common Core standards. Have a good day.